Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore with my monocolored ghost, Joe.
Red da ba dee da ba die.
Close enough. So, basically, the idea behind this episode is we're going to be going over eight monocolored legends. I'm including one that's colorless because they happen to have a single color connected to them, being black. But let's go ahead and just get into it. 8 legends. Let's roll. So we're starting off with Zveilun, who is a merfolk from... It's amazing because this is a merfolk god. It's not just of merfolk. They're the god of the sea and sky, according to the old Vidalians.
Might not win, but we sure can try. Oh, I'm unbeatable. Pokemon.
So,
advanced battle.
Old Vidalia is what you would refer to as... You good, Joe?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to start.
Cool. So, basically, the Vidalians worshipped this particular goddess named Svyelun because she made the merfolk, Joe. And considering that we have a physical manifestation of this creature in card form, means that it must be true. She must actually exist.
That's kind of weird.
Think about it. So, according to their legends, she made merfolk out of silt and seawater. So she literally just like scooped it up and was like, phew, and then merfolk. And
she just went and Professor Utoniumed a bunch of merfolk.
Pretty much. And so basically what would happen is that they would initially show her as a merfolk who just lived in the sky. And over time, she became much more mythologized until eventually modern day Vidalians just show her as a full moon ringed with a halo, with a bright pair of circular spots on opposite sides. And that's basically her entire symbology. And that's all we know about her, is that she taught the merfolk, like she gave them their own fishy Bible, which probably says you should not eat people on Friday kind of thing. And that, it's very important. It's a huge part of it. It's definitely in there. And yeah, that's basically her entire deal, which is kind of great.
That feels like so much, but also so little. It's like, yeah, here's a merfolk Jesus.
Huh? Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, bye. Wait, I need more. That's all.
She can swim on land. Next up, we have another religious figure, a guy named Turok. Now, you may know him for his hymns. So the whole idea is that he started this in like a movement called the
Another Powerpuff Girls reference?
How?
Yeah.
Him. Okay, got it. Good job, Joe. Now, he started the Ebon Hand. This is during the time of the Sarpadian empires. So Sarpadia was this like... I want to say terrible set, not because it was badly made or just poorly received, but because of the fate of everyone that wasn't a thrall or a Thalid on it. Because it basically or a Homerid, everything's terrible on that little continent. It's hilarious. It's fantastic. What's important though is that Tourach he founded the Ebon Hand, right? And so it was him and a bunch of necromancers, and what they would do is that they would like sacrifice their limbs, sacrifice other people, and they would sing to the Ebon Hand, right? And so while that's all happening, and you have this group called the Late Burr. The Late Burr are what the original religion was. And so they were mono-white, Turok was mono-black, obviously. And so there was this constant like clash between the two. And so the Ebon Hand, after Turok died, decided, you know what? This guy was basically our messiah. And so they deified him and considered him to be a god. And this whole time, they've been like basically preaching that Turok will return. There will be a second coming of Turok, and you'll have to discard 2 more cards at random. And when you do, you'll be like really scared. And the Late Burr are terrified of all of that happening. And so among the Neo-Ebonic Hand, there's like ideas that Turok has already come back, and he came back in the form of a guy named Timolin Loneglade, or a priest king named Vetro. And so that's the whole idea behind Turok, is that he created a cult and then they worshipped him. and he's super evil. That's it. That's his entire spiel.
So we had Merfolk Jesus and then the Antichrist over here.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty great.
Are we done with the blasphemy now?
We'll see. We're going to go ahead and talk about that third god. Now, it's important to note at this point, Titania is a reprint. Normally, Legends don't get reprinted unless it's something like this, a supplemental set. So I decided, you know what? She showed up. We're going to do the same thing for Chainer and Braids later on in their own special episode. But right now, we're going to talk about Titania. Last episode, I talked about Solkanar. Do you remember Solkanar, Joe?
Yes.
Well, Titania is also a Morrow sorcerer, but she was for the Forest of Argoth. Argoth was basically like imagine a really, really vibrant, verdant Australia. It was this far off mini continent that had a ton
With a bunch of death creatures.
Well, it had a ton of lush forests. It was the nicest place you could ever find. And it turned out that someone did find it. A kid named Harbin, son of Urza. And when he found it, he was helped by the elves that lived there and everything, and everybody was really nice to him, and he loved it, and he left, and then he went home, and he talked about this really great place that was full of, like, just so much forest. And Urza
basically went home and just like, have you heard of Narnia?
Yeah, pretty much. He was super amazed by this place. And so they like, this all happens. He goes back home. He tells everybody about the amazing experience he had when his ornithopter crashed, and they saved him and they nursed him back to health and sent him away. And when this is all happening, Urza's like, take me there now. And he's like, why? He goes, I like wood. And so Harbin goes, okay, Dad, I guess if you love me now. He's like, be quiet and show me the wood. And so he takes him to the trees. He takes him to the entirety of the forest. Well, turns out Mishra's also going there. And this would actually be the final place of the fight on Argoth. This is where Urza and Mishra squared off for the last time, because both of them wanted the forest because of its super lush vegetation. And so no breathing. And so it was at this point that Titania is like, hey, guys, I'm a literal goddess. Leave my place alone. And they're like, wood. We need more wood for the fire. And so we
didn't start the fire, but we will with all that wood.
They did start the fire too. But more importantly, it was
but this is like in the mindset that they're lying to Titania.
Joe, in the center of Argoth, Urza fights Mishra. I'm not going to get into details because we will eventually someday talk about it.
We'll hopefully get a usable Mishra.
That would be the perfect time to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But again, at this point, Urza activates the Golgothian Silex, which is an artifact that destroys everything from the Antiquity set. And it obliterated the entirety of Argoth. It reduced it to a barren slab and erased everything, basically. Killed Titania, obviously. And that is the entirety of Titania's story. She was a hopeless bystander with godlike power during the Brothers' War.
Titania's just like, I am inevitable, and the brothers are just like, well, you're Iron Man.
Okay, another quick one. Captain Ripley Vance. Other than sharing a name with the protagonist of Alien, this is also a super epic character. So, Joe, you've heard of Vance before, right?
Vance's blasting cannon.
Yes, exactly. She's from the plane of Ixalan, and her whole deal is that she's a pyromantic mage pirate. And
I love it already.
And she had a galleon under her command, right?
Uh-huh.
What she would do is she would go, defeat ships, kill everybody on board, whatever, do what she had to do.
Pirates.
And then take their cannons. Yeah, there'd be the treasure and everything, but she prioritized the cannons. Because her ideology was, you can never have too many cannons. And so
that's a good ideology.
She expanded her fleet specifically to hold cannons. And as it's happening, she continues to try and find ways to make her cannons work better. And so she sees a cliff, this massive cliff on the side of like an island, right? And it's situated directly between the Sun Coast and High and Dry, which is like the whole pirate like continent. basically. It's not really, there's a whole thing about it. The point
It's
is,
the Grand Line.
kind of. So what happens is that she shoots a bunch of cannons into the cliff to create her own Spitfire Bastion, which I'm sure you've also heard of. Now, that's
Tybar.
crazy. It's insane.
Tybar's a bastion
So she then takes
of a man.
a ton of her cannons and puts them on the cliffs and basically sets up shop there. And so people just kind of go in, like they stop there to get like supplies and enjoy themselves, stuff like that. She literally turned a cliffside covered in lava into a port town. And
With cannons.
Yeah, and it's just covered in cannons. The whole place is covered in cannons. And anyone that she doesn't like say you do something and she's like, get out. And then you leave and you get far enough, she just batters you with cannon after cannon after cannon. Because it's literally surrounding the entire area. It's just cannons everywhere. Cannons to the left, cannons to the right. That kind of thing. It's amazing. I love the idea. And it says, when you cast your third spell each turn, put a +1 counter on her, then it deals damage equal to its power to any target. That makes no sense, except for the fact that she's dealing damage equal to her power. So the +1 counters are basically just cannons. You're putting cannon counters on her.
Uh-huh.
I love her. She's fantastic. Next up, we have a new legend. One that isn't...
SpongeBob turned into a clown.
We have a new legend. And it's pretty simple, Joe. This thing's name is Aeve. I choose to believe it's pronounced Eve. Aeve. So I'm just going to refer to them as Eve. The whole idea is that they existed on a plane without any life. It's a primordial soup kind of deal, right?
Okay.
And then lightning struck, and the jolt of energy suddenly jump-started the existence of Eve, the first living being on the plane. And from that ooze came all other things on the plane. They don't say what plane it is. I want to believe it's Dominaria, so that means that this thing is like Urza's great grand creature. So that's just my headcanon, is that this is how Dominaria started. And that's it. That's the entire story.
That would be Dominaria's Big Bang.
Yeah. Also, it is worth noting, Eve is still alive. Like, it's the first living thing on the plane, and it's still alive after billions of years. Which, again, fantastic, hilarious. I love it. Then we have Ragavan. Ragavan is, of course, a monkey. It first appeared as a token on Kari's Monkey. This card is insane, and it's mythic, rightfully so. And I love them. He's such a good boy. So the idea behind Ragavan...
He's really strong. He's 1 mana.
He's 1 mana, and he's crazy. Now, the thing about Ragavan is that unlike every other monkey in the Pima Forest of Kaladesh, he did not enjoy his time there. So he sneaks onto the Sun Chaser, and he kind of just lives there until he's found by a 13-year-old girl named Kari. She sees him, and they're like, hey, best friend. And the monkey's like, best friend. And they basically become Aladdin and Abu. And they're obviously, Ragavan then discovers that the Sun Chaser is crewed by nothing but air pirates. And so Ragavan loves being a pirate. While like the whole like swashbuckling thing is going on, Ragavan just like scurries in, finds the most valuable thing, and then takes it. And of course, eventually Ragavan and Karizev become the captain. Well, she becomes the captain of her own ship, the Dragon's Smile, which was what they used during the time of the Etherflux. No, that's the name of the
Aether Revolt.
Ether Revolt. Thank you, Joe, keeping me honest. So during the Ether Revolt, she was the one in command of a fleet of ships that raided the consulate during the Ether Revolt. And she actually crippled the consulate flagship, the Sky Sovereign, which was like supposed to be their big ship that was going to be like the main thing. And so even in the modern day, because obviously Kaladesh happened only a bit ago, she is still just going around spending a ton of like her fortunes on fuel and repairing the airships. And Ragavan just loves it. Ragavan just kind of exists to plunder as a happy little monkey.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
That's so happy. That's the greatest story I've ever heard.
Next up, we got Thrasta, which I really wish its name was just Thrasha, because Thrasha would just be such an epic name for a dinosaur. So Thrasta is called the Tempest Roar. And basically what it does is it waits for a thunderstorm, goes out to the highest point of a mountain it can find, and lets itself get struck by lightning.
So that's why it's the Thunder's Roar.
Yeah. And then the lightning kind of surrounds it and just goes off with the storm power and goes off searching for its siblings so they can challenge them to battles and just basically destroy everything around it. And all it wants to do is be the apex predator of the entire forest. That is the entire story behind Thrasta.
These have been really good stories.
It is worth noting, Thrasta's whole deal is they have storm to an extent. The idea is that they figured out a way to make a creature with storm. So the spell costs 3 less to cast for each other spell cast this turn. So that's why the whole lightning bolt thing. Every time there's a thing that happens, it makes them a bit more quick, a bit more powerful. And for the first turn it comes in, it has hexproof because there's all that lightning all over the place. This last one is technically monocolor, but it's got a black germ token. And I really love it. So I'm putting it in this one. It's Kaldra Complete. Now, Kaldra is from the original Mirrodin storyline, before we knew the Phyrexians were a thing on Mirrodin. So the whole idea was that Gleesa Sunseeker, before she became Gleesa the Traitor, she went around and collected 3 artifacts, the helm, shield, and sword of Kaldra. And using them was able to create a avatar composed of this like bluish white plasma that was just like this terrifying token. And so the idea was that the 3 equipment naturally fused together to create this being, right? The problem is that when it did happen, the green sun then exploded out of the earth, because at the time there was only 4 suns. You had the blue, red, white, and black sun. The green sun was considered to be like unnatural, and all sorts of stuff was connected to it. But the green sun winds up just bursting out of Mirrodin's core, and when it does, it completely annihilates the 3 pieces of Kaldra. Which, yeah, that meant it was pretty much gone. It is worth noting that Kaldra was actually taken control of by Memnarch prior to getting destroyed by the Green Sun. So the bad guy had actually already stolen it from them, because that's Memnarch's whole deal, is taking artifacts. But when that happened, it got destroyed by the Green Sun, and it seemed to have been dealt with. Of course, after that happened, Gleesa went into the core, and all that spiel took place, and she became completed. And when that took place, she then started working on recreating the Kaldra artifacts, restoring them. And she even used her own specialized germ that she grew in the flesh vats to create that perfect champion for Phyrexia. Like that was her amazing. Entire goal, was to recreate the actual Kaldra champion and basically release it on the Mirrans. If it wins, then she succeeded. If it doesn't, then it wasn't strong enough to begin with, and she can just start anew. And that is literally the entire, like, Gleesa's like, you know what?
That's why Gleesa has so much to do with artifacts in her new form.
Yes, because of everything that happened in the past.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So Kaldra Complete, super epic. I have a story that I'm going to be, we're going to release after Legendary Lore that I'm working on.
Legendary Lore!
That I'm working on that is going to include a little bit about Kaldra Complete. And I hope you guys don't miss it, because it's really fun. I had a ton of fun writing it. And so we just need to get all that stuff sorted out. Joe, that was our 8 monocolored legends.
Those were super enjoyable. I hope you guys enjoyed them too. Go ahead and leave a like if you liked the video, and subscribe to catch the next Legendary Lore with some more juicy legends.